during World War II, when World War II broke out and the Germans invaded Poland, they forced many Poles, many Polish people, to go work in German factories. They had to leave their homes and go to work in the factories. And they got permission to come for a week home, 2 weeks here and there, whenever they had a real good reason. One of these workers got permission, got a leave for 2 weeks, and he came back to his city, Rozodów. It's in southeast Poland. Came back home, he went to the doctor to be checked up. The doctor took from him, gave him a blood test, sent it to a German laboratory, and it came back that he has typhus. Now, typhus was eradicated in Germany for 25 years. They didn't have a problem with typhus. It means that people in Germany did not have the antibodies for typhus. The Germans were scared to death from this type of pandemic. To spread typhus, that was so deadly in the World War I. Then when they heard this thing, that this person has typhus, right away they ordered them not to come back to the factory, to stay home, to quarantine. That's the only way that's the only thing they can do. 2 weeks passed, another 2 blood tests coming from this city. Again, the test positive for typhus. Now the German authorities are getting more worried. A typhus pandemic should spread in the army, will devastate the country, will be a calamity to the world. Couldn't be anything worse than that. Right away, they ordered the authorities around the city of Rozodów to start to be even more, to keep an eye on the people. And as it spread more and more, they gave an order to quarantine the whole city of Rozodów. More and more people are tested, and more people, even the neighboring villages, have typhus. At this point, they ordered to quarantine not only the city, but the 12 villages around the city. And anybody who is in this city, nobody leaves, nobody comes in. Closed. But here is the true story. It was a doctor, a Polish doctor, a Catholic, a young man who finished medical school and was sent for training to serve as a doctor in this city. When he came to the city, it was already occupied by the Germans, and it was a ghetto there, and it was ordered very clear: you cannot treat Jewish people. But he was very clear that he's going to help Jewish people, no matter what they say. They used to sneak into the ghetto at night to help Jews, to treat them. How he knew when there is a sick person in the ghetto? They had a sign. His house was very close to the ghetto. When they put in his backyard, they hang up some type of a white cloth. That was a sign that there is somebody sick in the ghetto and he has to come in. And the same day at night, he has to sneak into the ghetto. They had a place where they were waiting for him, and he has to take care of the patients. This man was also researching and working on a vaccine, he and his colleague, for a vaccine for typhus. One day they discovered that when you inject the vaccine, this type of bacteria from typhus, into the body of the person, this person, even if you inject the vaccine the body should develop antibodies against typhus, but when you give this person a blood test, the blood test will show like he has typhus. When this Polish worker walked into his office, to the doctor's office, and told him, listen, I don't want to go back to the factory to work, it's forced labor. On the other hand, I'm afraid if I will not come back, they will deport me and my family to a concentration camp. They did it to the Polish people too. What should I do? The doctor told them, I think I have a solution. He injected in them this bacteria, this dead bacteria of the typhus bacteria, whatever it was from the virus. He took from him a blood test and he sent it to the German laboratory. Lo and behold, it came that he has typhus. He didn't have to go back to the factory. They quarantined them at home. When he saw it's working, he started to inject other Polish people. One and another one and another one. He didn't inject any Jews, because if a Jew got typhus, he was not quarantined, he was shot and killed right away. Then he didn't want to hurt the Jews. He injected Polish people, and by quarantining the whole city and the villages, he saved the Jews from being deported to the concentration camp, to the death camp, to Auschwitz, to Bergen-Belsen. He kept them in the city, in the ghetto. It was going on for a while. But then the Germans were wondering, how is it that nobody dies from typhus? What's going on? Something is wrong. So they sent a delegation of a high-level doctor with some young doctors who just, his students, so to speak, and with soldiers. The doctor, his name was Eugene Lazowski. This Polish doctor met them outside of the city because the city was quarantined. They didn't want to enter the city. And he met them outside the city, gave them a big lunch, he dined them with a lot of alcohol. The main guy, the head doctor, got so drunk he couldn't go to check what was going on in the city. He sent the young doctors. They were afraid to get typhus. They didn't really know much what to do. They took some blood tests and they came back. They said, yeah, it's typhus. This way it was going on from end of 1939 until the end of 1942. By that time, somebody informed the doctor, reported to the German authorities that the doctor is playing around, is doing some business that makes everybody look like they have typhus. And the Gestapo was about to come and pick him up. But a German officer came and told them he should run away because this Gestapo is after him. He picked up his family and he ran away. He ran to a different city in Poland. After the war, he continued to be a little bit in Poland, practiced medicine. He never told anybody. He came to America. He settled in Chicago. And only in 1980 was the first time he told the story. It was estimated that he saved, during these 3 years, he saved 8,000 people. You see, the Polish Jews, they were the one who almost didn't survive the Holocaust, because they were sent to the concentration camp right in the beginning of the war. To give this community 3 years was gold. Every minute was gold. 3 years was a treasure. In the year 2000, they made a documentary about them, and Yad Vashem in Israel recognized them as a righteous Gentile who saved so many Jews. Who was the first righteous Gentile in Jewish history? We read about her in the Parsha of this week. It was a woman. When Moses was born, his mother put him in a basket by the river. And then somebody came down to bathe. It was Pharaoh's daughter. She opened the basket. She saw this beautiful little Moses, that he had an aura around him. He was not a usual child. He had something that he had a magnet around his face. It was like something that you couldn't stop looking at him. And she right away fell in love with this baby. She decided to adopt him. She was the first righteous Gentile who saved the Jewish boy. You need to understand, it's like Hitler's daughter in 1942 decides to adopt a Jewish boy and bring him to Hitler's house. Unthinkable. And that's what she did. Pharaoh's daughter brought him to his house, to her father's house, and she raised them there. And then that's right. This woman, Pharaoh's daughter, everybody knows about the real story, that she was a righteous Gentile. It's written in many places. Many people talk about it, mention it. Or there is another righteous Gentile that is hiding in this parsha that less people pay attention to. Right after Moses grew up, it's also very famous. Anybody who saw the movie Ten Commandments knows the story. Moses went out to see his brothers to see how they're doing. He saw an Egyptian officer is beating up a Jewish slave, a Jewish prisoner. He wants to kill him. Moses got up, killed the Egyptian to save the Jew. The news was informed to Pharaoh. Pharaoh ended down a death sentence to Moses. You don't kill Egyptian officers who are supposed to control the Jews. Moses had to flee from Egypt. He ran away. He was wanted. You know, in the post office, you have the big signs, pictures of people wanted. Moses was one of them. Wanted by the most powerful country in the world at the time, by the superpower. He ran away to Midian. He comes to the well, he meets a few girls, he is helping them, he defends them. Then he's being called to the father's house. It was Jethro's house. Jethro welcomed this boy, this man, he's not a boy, this man who ran away from Egypt, who has a death sentence on him, and he's opening the house for him and eventually giving him his daughter. To open your house for somebody who is accused for killing and deserves a death sentence, not everybody will do it. We don't know if he would do such a thing. Jethro is a total stranger. Jethro welcomed them to his house. That's a righteous Gentile. But it's more than that. You know the history of Jethro? Jethro, before, right in the beginning of the book of Exodus, Pharaoh made a meeting. What to do with the Jewish problem? They're becoming so big, so strong, so powerful. We need to get rid of them. He called 3 people to the meeting. Bilam, the Gentile prophet, Job, and Jethro. What to do with the Jews? Bilam told them, kill them, throw them to the river, whatever you can do. Job said nothing. Yeah, he was absentee. He didn't want to take a side, not with this side, not with the other side. He's silent. Jethro looked on Pharaoh and he told them, anybody who touches the Jews touches the pupil of the eye of God. Don't mess around with the God of the Jews. You know, when you tell a dictator something he doesn't like to hear, you're going to find yourself a head shorter. You know, it's like Kim Jong-un, the guy from North Korea. When he doesn't like somebody, you know what he did to his brother, to his uncle? That was Pharaoh. Jethro himself had to run away from Egypt. The Jethro is a guy who is escaping Egypt because they wanted to kill him. He's welcoming a Jew, an Hebrew that he never met, just to save him, and he knows that this guy is also being wanted by Egypt. That's a true righteous Gentile. And that's why he deserved to have a son-in-law like Moses, and grandchildren were leaders of the Jewish people. But in this story with the Polish doctor, Eugene Lazowski, in this story there is something unique. Usually any righteous Gentile, Pharaoh's daughter saved the baby, saved the Jew. Throughout history, there is in Yad Vashem, there is around 30,000 people recognized Gentiles who risked their life to save Jews. But most of them are stories, they saved the Jew, they were busy with the Jew. Here was something unique. He injected to other Polish people the virus, and through this he saved the Jews. He didn't even touch the Jews, he didn't bother them. He mobilized non-Jews to save the Jews. This is what's unique about this story. We see a similar story, you know, the Shabbat before Passover is called Shabbat HaGadol. the Great Shabbos. Why it's called the Great Shabbos? Because a great miracle took place. What was the miracle? Right before Pesach, Moses came to Pharaoh and he told them, let my people go. For the 10th time, it was 9 plagues, that was plague number 10. He told them, if you don't let the people go, God will kill every firstborn in Egypt. By that time, the Egyptian people knew that if Moses promises something, he delivers. He already established his credibility 9 times. Then they came to Pharaoh, begged them to let the people go. Pharaoh said no. They started rioting in the streets of Egypt. Then Pharaoh sent out the police, the army. Then it was a war between non-Jews, between Egyptian and Egyptian, that one side of the Egyptian are fighting on behalf of the Jewish people. When non-Jews fight on behalf of the Jewish people, that's a huge miracle. That's why it's called Shabbat HaGadol, the Great Shabbos. Like if you remember during the Persian Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein was sending missiles on Israel, and it was a coalition of most of the nations of the world fighting Iraq on behalf of Israel. Israel was not involved in the war. She didn't have to shoot one bullet. Actually, that was the condition that Israel should not get involved. But the rest of the world was fighting on behalf of Israel. This kind of miracle is a unique miracle. This kind of a righteous Gentile is a very unique job. He mobilized other non-Jews, and because of this, he saved the Jews who were not being deported for 3 years. But what's unique about this story, I think, is also a message to us. Sometimes from a pandemic can come out something good too. May Hashem help us, we should get rid of it. And if anything good is supposed to come out of it, should come out, to be done with it. And we should from now on be able to share stories of joy and happiness. Thank you.